What is going on, Sky Squad? We are back in the building. Happy Monday, y'all. We making some money today, y'all. We making some money on this good Monday, y'all. And we're going to talk Salt Lake City. Now, I did tell you guys yesterday that Adam is off doing some fabulous things, okay? He's off just being fabulous in the skies somewhere. You know what I'm saying? But I thought to myself, who should I get to come on and discuss Salt Lake City this week? Now, I have a very special guest. We met last year, okay? And I thought, you know what? I really want her opinion on what she has to say about everything going on down in Salt Lake City, specifically after this whole Jenny Wynn situation. So we're about to get into it with my girl Taria from the What Else Is Going On podcast. What's going on, Taria, boo?
Hi, Richie. First of all, thank you for having me. Happy Monday. I am just glad to be here, as the old folks say. I'm just happy to be here.
Good. I'm happy to have you here too. I mean, you know, it was interesting to me. I also wanted to get the idea of what you see happening on Salt Lake City from a woman's perspective, especially a Black woman.
Well,
And
first, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I just that was the biggest thing for me, because I was like, you know, I think that this would be a very interesting conversation, because I feel like you may have a little bit of a different lens than I might even have, because you're a woman. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like
Yes.
sometimes you as a woman may be able to see yourself in a situation a little bit differently than I can as a man. So
Yeah.
that's part of the reason why. And I just feel like you're fabulous. So I needed to have you on.
Thank you. Well, I have to tell your followers, I have been a fan of Richie for years. He knows this. I love him. I appreciate your perspective. And thank you for the work that you did with Salt Lake City and your posts and asking Bravo to speak up. It's much appreciated when you see other Black content creators doing that. But I want to send a special message to Miss Jenny and to all my beautiful Black sisters that we are pretty brown things. So you know
Hey.
that Jenny don't seem to think so. So we need to remember we are pretty brown things. So this is for you, Jenny. I go from rage to anger to, I haven't hit a sadness point yet watching, because those women, the situations remind me of when I worked in corporate and I was the only Black face in this room full of
Mm.
white women, and how they can gaslight you into thinking that it's you. And if you notice, when Mary engages, it's too much. But then when she doesn't engage, it's a problem. And I've been in those same situations. So they want Mary to bend to their will, and she won't. And they can't take her for it. I also wonder, since Jenny's post came out, have any of the women that were sitting around the table, Heather, who said, I need to know why you don't like Jenny, and Whitney, who said, I don't know how I can be here when you don't like my friend, have they reached out to Mary and said, hey, were you picking up on something that we clearly were missing? Or maybe not, because maybe underneath they may carry those same beliefs as Jenny.
Mm. You know, it's very interesting to watch what happened last night with Heather and Whitney. Seemingly, there's two ways that I feel about Mary. I'm just going to start this off with that.
Okay.
The first way that I feel about Mary is that Mary may be a little too real for reality TV. Okay. And what I mean by that is she don't have a filter, and
Yeah.
she is one of those types of people that if she don't mess with you, she's not gonna rock with you, even for the sake of the TV, right? The
Yep.
cameras are there, but I still don't like you, and I'm not gonna talk to you.
Period.
Actually, if you just stay far away from me, we will coexist very much fine. That is what she is trying to explain to them. Like, listen, everybody is not gonna like each other, and we can get along, but I don't want to be around you. Now, granted, there is Mary off to the side, rolling her eyes anytime Jenny speaks. But, you know, I respect, as Jen said, what Mary was saying. Like, I don't really care for you. And to me, I'm not trying to interact with you.
Mhm.
Now, the only problem with that is that it doesn't always work in the group setting for a reality TV show,
Right.
because what it does is the dynamics have to be in such a way, or they want it to be in such a way, that everybody can come back from something.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, in this situation, it just felt like Mary was like, you know what? I'm sensing something.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And no, I'm not going to acquiesce to what the group wants simply to make everyone else feel comfortable.
Yep.
You guys need to feel comfortable with the fact that I am an individual and I feel how I feel.
Yeah.
And to me, Heather wouldn't have gotten the wrath of Mary if she had just simply left her alone.
If she had left her, how they leave Jen alone because they don't want Jen's wrath. It's funny because I agree with you. You are on a reality show, Mary, and we're supposed to be talking about your real life and engaging, but they're not requiring that, nor is the audience, it seems, requiring that from Jen. We're not requiring Jen to talk about her real indictments. We're not requiring Jen to talk about why she lied on the bus about internal bleeding and her husband. But you want to question Meredith, who just lost her father and her sister, about whether she was at a memorial. So the cast, along with the audience, is picking and choosing.
Can I just say to you that you are correct about that? Why have we glossed over this whole idea, this whole notion that Jen told the ladies that her husband had internal bleeding? No one has called that out, but they are dogging Mary and Meredith into the ground. And especially, it really bothered me last night. And I was really rooting for Meredith in this moment when Whitney had the unmitigated gall to ask her whether or not she was really at her father's memorial. Like, now I get it. This is a reality TV show and it is a topic of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But to ask this woman anything about her father who is no longer alive, I feel like it's trash.
And then to say it was a low blow when Meredith said, I don't believe you haven't talked to your father. Whitney says that was a low blow. Recently, my husband within the last 2 years, lost his dad unexpectedly. And so I lost my grandmother, who wasn't like a second mother. She was my mother. I'm going to tell you, the production company would have been disappointed. The cameraman would have had to let their cameras go to pull me off of her, because there's no way that I could have sat there and let that go. And I was telling somebody, you know how you have a second thought? Both thoughts would have been drag her, because there's absolutely no way you get to ask me if my dad's memorial was real and he's not here and I lost my sister. And you think you can sit up? And how many times are they going to ask her? They asked her last week. They brought it up last week. They asked her at the dinner, and we saw on the previews for next week, Whitney's going to ask her again. Like, that's too much. That's too much.
For some reason, I didn't see the preview for next week.
Oh, Meredith and Whitney are in the kitchen, and Whitney comes in and says, so we were all talking about it, and I just need you to tell me, was the memorial real?
I think I would have slapped her across the face.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, and I don't even want to go. I'm not even that type of person.
Me neither.
You know what I'm saying? But you asking about somebody's father who just passed is too much. And I just felt like it was disrespectful. And I understand that Whitney is probably doing her job, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like you have to have a line, and there has to be a place where you just are going to say, you know what, I'm not going to go there. It's on. I mean, what she could have let her know, though, is, now, if she really wanted to be a mess about it, she would have said, girl, they talking about they don't believe that you was really at the memorial. I think you need to go set them straight.
Yep.
And that would have been, because Whitney's been causing a chaos. And sometimes I'm like, well, I ain't mad at it. But on this note, I just felt like she went about that all wrong. That was just not cool for me. I want to address something real quick. All the way up north says they questioned Jen at the faux lunch. What are y'all talking about? What I will say is this. Hold on. Mary did question her. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mary asked the questions that the people wanted to know. Jen has been denying everything. But what they did not question her about that we just mentioned was the fact that she lied about her husband having internal bleeding. No one asked anything about that. And to me, that is not the best lie that you want to tell, okay?
Right.
You never want to lie about somebody being sick. You never want to lie about somebody passing, because we all know what happens in life when you do that, okay?
Yes.
So that is specifically what we're talking about. And to take that even a step further, they have not been grilling her the way that they have been grilling Mary and Meredith about much lesser infractions.
Yes, I agree with you. Even if you notice, Jen herself will bring up, like on the bus ride, I'm going through a tough time right now. Nobody is saying, well, you're going through a tough time, because from what I like, they're not going there. They're all just like appeasing her.
And I almost felt like they did a little bit of a better job on Beverly Hills questioning Erica Jane about, and granted, Erica Jane, it's debatable about whether she knew or did not know about what was going on with the firm. But what we do know is, I mean, it was her husband. She wasn't even the person that was allegedly committing the crime. So he's the person who is at the center of the controversy. But they did a much better job on Beverly Hills of asking questions, even to their own, like, you know, detriment, really, because she literally lit into them for doing so. But I just felt like they haven't necessarily done that with Jen, and maybe it's because they are afraid, even more afraid of her wrath than they are, you know, of Erica's in Beverly Hills. I want to bring up something real quick. I want to kind of take things. We're going to jump around a little bit, guys, today, because there's so much to talk about. The Mary situation was definitely something I wanted to get your opinion on first, so I'm glad we talked about that. But I want to bring this up here. I was going to bring up something else, but I changed my mind.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, y'all. I'm going to pull up something that I posted earlier, because it's going to lead into the next topic of conversation. Give me 1 second.
Richie's trying to get my blood pressure up even.
That was a super chat that came in and I missed it. Hold on. Queen Key 84 says, "Hey, Scott Squad, welcome to your happy Monday."
Hi,
Thank
Queen.
you so much for that super chat. Okay, I think I have it right here. Give me 1 second, y'all. Pulling up my own page. All right. Okay, so real quick, I had some questions this morning about this moment right here. All right. Now, I wanted to know who the man was in the background. I said, who is lurking in the background? Leave it to Carlos King. Chime in and let us know. That's the EP of the show right there in the background.
In the background, which means he would have been in the room. So
Lisa obviously left the scene and went to the room, and they were probably having a conversation. That's what I'm surmising, that she went in there, she was venting. What I will say about this is I could see Lisa's blood pressure starting to rise last night. I could see it. I could see it from the moment that Jen started to go in on her as the conversation was supposed to be directed at Mary. I could also see, now usually Mary can gather the girls. I don't think she was quite ready for a Lisa Barlow that was on the verge.
And saying some real, like, she was saying some stuff that they're serious accusations. What's interesting to me is that you have Lisa Barlow going after Mary's church, calling it a cult, and you are still presently involved in a church that some may also question.
That's the thing too. That topic has kept coming up a lot for me this season, because, and when I say this, and for me, I do not know much about the Mormon Church, but much of what I know from Heather.
Okay.
So from Heather's own mouth, what I feel like I hear about it gives similar vibes to what people say about Mary's church. So any discussion to me about churches being cult-like, because that's something that people say about a lot of churches.
A lot of churches.
Okay.
Yes.
Should be off the table, because everybody's on an even playing field.
Not only on an even playing field, when you look at Heather, look at how Heather's brother came in to tell her, hey, I wanted to leave the church and you never responded back to me. And I felt like I was raising my kids in a cult. Well, if Heather felt so strongly about the Mormon church, she wouldn't help her family. We had her niece and nephew on camera saying, I left because they're not really for social justice. But you have Lisa Barlow, who is still an active member, and y'all have a nerve to go after Mary's church. I think it's very ironic. And for me, growing up in a Black church, a lot of us have been there. We're not saying there aren't churches that are like that. I didn't go to any churches like that. And it was almost borderline offensive for them to continue talking about tithes and offerings. I mean, if you notice, when Mary came on screen, the first thing people said was she's stealing from her church, as if she couldn't have her own money. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm not saying those things aren't true, but to center a storyline around rumors when we have real things. And that dinner last night, and Whitney and Heather over the last couple episodes have let me know that, oh, Mary was supposed to be the target coming in. Because if you notice, a real valid issue will come up outside of Mary and they will pivot right back to Mary. And it makes no sense. The pivots don't connect. Like last night when Whitney was like, so I want to know about you and Jenny. Are y'all friends? Whitney's trying to keep it on the track that they all agreed on, but other things are happening. And they can't.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Miriam, not paid by anyone.
Like
We need to keep the same energy towards all cult-like churches, not only Mary's. And I think the thing about it is, and the statement that I want to make, because I know for a lot of people, church is very sensitive. So I try to, walk a fine line when I talk about this. But the thing that I will say is a lot of people's churches can be perceived as cults to other people who do not understand what is going on within that church. It is not for me to understand. That's between the people that go there and the parishioners or whomever is in charge of the church. I am not going to judge them for whatever they choose to do with their time and with their money.
Yes. And it's interesting how Whitney is now talking about Mary's church. I don't believe in her religion, but you believed it enough to take your father last season, who was actively struggling with sobriety, said he felt something. I went back to her Instagram page around that time and saw the pictures and the things that she had to say about Mary's church. You said these rumors have been around for years, but you took him there knowing all these rumors. And now all of a sudden you're scared for your family. You can't be too scared. Also, it's interesting to me how Whitney had to literally go to the ladies and say, I can't take Mary down by myself. So I need your help.
I will never forget that moment, because to me, it just showed, like, one, you're a coward. Two, there's this reality TV show trope wherein it seems as though one person has to be the target every season.
Yes.
In order for it to be interesting, everyone gangs up on this one person, and there you have it. So they wanted to make the TV villain Mary, but the actual villain was really Jenny, and no one was willing to look at it.
Thank you.
And the other thing about this whole situation is that I find funny about, what Whitney did last night is that instead of, Whitney does not care about Lisa and Meredith's friendship. What she did last night was she saw a crack in my mind, okay? And as Meredith was explaining that she does not control what Mary does or says, then what she did was she turned it on Lisa again, okay?
Yes. Bad weather.
She tries to make it seem like, well, you're standing behind Mary, but Lisa's been your friend all this many years, which I'm sure is winding Lisa up.
Yep.
Like all she's hearing this. And then as soon as Lisa leaves, okay, this concern about Lisa turned into, well, Lisa was the one suggesting that maybe to the rest of the ladies that maybe you weren't at your dad's memorial.
Yep.
I was like, oh,
that was quick. And what's interesting to me about Lisa and all of these feelings, if you go back to the bus ride with Jen and her arguing, what she said was, Meredith basically has been giving me an issue or like making me choose. I chose you, Jen. I chose you.
Oh, what? I don't.
But
You know what's so funny? I did not remember that.
she said, I chose you. So for you to sit here with Heather on a mountaintop in Zion, or what are they calling it? Because I'm like, oh, I recognize that name, but it's Zion, right? For them to sit on a mountaintop and Heather say, I realized Meredith hasn't been your support. And then for her to push that narrative when you said out of your mouth on camera, I chose you, Jen. That's interesting to me. And Jen heard her say that, but even Jen's pushing that narrative. Well, what about support for you? How is Meredith going to support Lisa, who actively chose Jen?
And Meredith literally said that last night. Meredith was like, well, you just said that nobody at this table supports you, and now you want me to have your back.
Yes. And can we go back to I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Let's go back to the beginning of the season when they had that party and at Angie's home, and Lisa was having an issue with Angie, and she goes, I'm going to get Meredith. She calls Meredith in and says, Meredith, tell her, aren't we good? Meredith could have very well threw her under the bus and said, well, we're not good because you took Jen's back. She did not. She said, you and I had a private discussion about it and we are fine. So basically what is y'all's issues with me and Lisa? So she had her back then. That false outrage to me. And after hearing Lisa's, it almost reads like Phaedra's read of Kenya years ago. Like, did you plan to say that? Or that's been on top of mine for you to say all that about Meredith last night. Come out, we would be done. There would be nothing left to say. May the Lord watch between me and thee while we're done. Don't you ever.
So, there's when I talk about this show or any show in general, I have to look at it from two different perspectives. I look at it from one as I try to look at it as though I'm watching it like it's real life, right? And then the other side of me can't help but be a little bit of the mini producer and say, well, that's going to go down in history. And in my mind, I just think that while I don't believe that there's any coming back, I don't want to say that. I'm not going to say that there's no coming back from that because this is reality TV. And this whole situation is very much giving me Lisa Vanderpump and Kyle vibes.
Yes.
With Meredith in the Lisa Vanderpump role early seasons.
Okay.
Just in a certain way. Like,
I get it.
In terms of how how I think she will respond to Lisa maybe attempting to ask for forgiveness next season. It seems as though, much like Lisa Vanderpump, Meredith can hold a grudge for quite some time.
Yes.
And that's not maybe a wrong thing to do because you have to naturally take that time. But, when we're watching a reality TV show, if you're not over this issue in 3 episodes, we mad. We like, let it go, girl.
Yes, we are over it.
But Meredith seems to be more on the real, like, no, I'm not over it. And I'm not going to make it convenient for people. Like, so I think that maybe that is where Meredith and Mary align, is that for some reason, I feel like they seem to be the targets. They also seem to have found a safe space with each other. Because what Mary said last night was, when we are together, we don't talk about you guys.
Right. So it's not always, our relationship isn't an alliance. It's an actual relationship versus the other ladies. We know it's an actual alliance. I don't get how Jen went from putting her fingernail to Whitney's trachea in Vegas last year to now Whitney is literally at your house. Like, if there's anything you need, I'm here for you. Like, what?
Didn't that happen really, really fast? It happened in one conversation that was in a flashback episode where now all of a sudden Whitney and Jen are like bosom buddies. Like, I needed more from that. Like,
me too.
I need for you to give me because Whitney's definitely had a lot of strong opinions about Jen, especially about Jen and Heather, and why Heather was so, hell bent on being friends with Jen.
Yes.
And I don't begrudge that, because obviously Heather and Jen, there was something that connects them, right? I can rock with that. But I can't rock with it that you just it at the expense of everything else. You really turn a blind eye to things when the feds rain down on your workplace. You just are like, girl, I got your back until the end, even though you did lie to me about your husband having internal bleed.
Like, it's crazy to me. I noticed at that faux garden, though, if you notice, Whitney didn't have an issue and start all this, everybody's being fake, until she saw Mary and Heather talking.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, everyone's fake. And this whole thing, Mary, can you bring me a blanket? No. Girl, we're talking about me. So when you say real life versus show, that is real life. Mary reminds me of my aunties, my grandma, my cousins, my family. No, I don't mess with you like that. And you asking me to bring you a blanket. So Mary is really not playing the game. When they bring up Jenny, Mary's whole body goes, ugh, like, no. And I felt that from Jenny's first interaction with Mary. So I'm like, I get it.
And nobody's, it was so funny as I would go and do the recaps every week. I kept reflecting back on their first real like interaction. And it was Jenny telling both Lisa and Mary to shut the F up when they were having their own little argument that did not involve her. She's new here. No one knows you yet. And you come yelling at them, and Mary's like, don't talk to me like that. And then you're going to tell Mary, well, don't tell me what to do. Girl, you just tried to tell her what to do. Like, so what is this? What is your issue here? And when Mary said, you just blurt things out all the time. And the producers went back. And they showed it. I want to pull up something for you real quick.
Uh-oh. Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So there was a post. Someone said Lisa's hot mic moment will go down in Housewives history as one of the most instantly iconic scenes ever. I'm shaking wildly. Legendary. And Carlos King said, most overused words in reality TV, iconic and legendary. This doesn't apply to this moment. We need to discuss this. Oh, yes, Carlos, we need to discuss it. Pull on. Carlos.
That just did like milk and did my body good.
Well, I will say this. Okay, let me say this. Well, I guess my first question to you is, why do you think he said that?
Because I feel like he recognizes the character Lisa, and we clearly see that she's trying to produce moments. To me, I can't really fully enjoy them because she's sloppy, and I feel like she wants it so bad. So she's coming in producing, and it's almost like, well, I can see the wizard behind the curtain. So to me, one of these moments is included. You can't honestly think Meredith owes you anything when you said out of your mouth that you chose Jen. So this has to be some type of thing you're trying to produce to make good TV so you can get another season, right? So for me, I feel like that comes out when she comes out and perfectly chiseled self with her half bra shirt on and her hair cascading over her shoulder. You can have your mic back, and tosses it. To me, I felt like it was sort of kind of planned out. I don't think it was as explosive and as off the cuff as she may want us to think. So maybe that's what Carlos is seeing in her, because I don't feel like that moment was authentic. I feel like Lisa can't read. And I feel like every read she has tried to do is inauthentic, like she's planned it out. Richie, we've seen her literally pick up her child from school. Hi, baby gorgeous, as she's mouthing his response in the mirror. We've seen her do that in other scenes with her kids where she's mouthing their response. Girl, you are not authentic. None of your moves are. So I feel like that's where Carlos is coming from. Carlos, if I'm wrong, holla at me. If I'm right, holla at me.
Okay, so here's the thing. Carlos is, I always refer to him as like the king of reality TV. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
because he's just, number one, he's an EP who has seen it all for a very long time in the world of Housewives. So, I did in my mind feel like to me, it was epic. It was an epic moment. And I think because it all worked in concert, right? Let me just put it like that, because it was this moment that was teased by Andy earlier, like 2 weeks ago, right? Yeah. So we knew something was coming. It was it was alleged by, at least by Andy and others, that the women did not see this until the reunion, like before the reunion, which is going to create an extra amount of tension.
Yeah.
And it was about her bestie, or at least her
Yeah.
old bestie, on the show, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it all worked together in that moment because she had already gotten up and leave. And this is probably one of the first franchises that I've seen where the women are allowed to just get up and leave the table so freely.
Just leave. I'm not engaging. I'm disengaging. I'm not. Nope. I'm out of here.
Jen, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yes.
Like, what? Wait a minute now. We're filming. It was just it's very strange to me.
They all watched Potomac when Ashley asked the question at the barn and then went to the bathroom. That's what they're trying. Y'all are not Potomac. You can't do that. But I'm with you. But you said a word that I can get with. It was an epic moment.
That's how I feel about it.
But legendary and iconic are different than epic. So I like your word. That was wow. That was an epic moment.
It was. I mean, I think that's why I called it epic, because it everything came together at the end of this explosive night in a way that we did not expect until last week when we saw the preview, obviously.
Yes.
So to me, that's why I felt. But you know what? I want to hear, Carlos, if you are listening anywhere out there, if anybody can get word to Carlos, give us a word on why it wasn't iconic or legendary, because he has seen it all. And I just wanted to throw that at you, and without you having seen it.
You saw my face. I was like, and Carlos has seen it all, from the best of the best. Jersey, Danielle, the book, like all of it.
He was there for the table toss.
Yes, Atlanta, Portia in Kenya. Like, he has seen it all. That's really good. I will say this. It's interesting to me how Whitney said in her confessional, talked about Meredith and Seth's relationship. Flashback real quickly to last season when Jen went over to Meredith's house to work out and was trying to allude that something was going on with Meredith and a man. And Whitney was very much like, no, if we don't have any evidence, we don't need to be talking about it. But now you're in a confessional throwing it out. And for people who don't know, December, it was either 12th or 19th of 2019, Seth had filed for divorce. But Meredith, I said, Meredith's persona on TV is probably like off TV because she disengaged, because it said she never answered, never followed up, never did anything. She just left it. And then he withdrew some months later. So if you look at the time when they were filming.
That is very true. Whitney did have, but that was first season Whitney.
I was going to say, this
is Whitney 2.0.
Yes.
And Whitney 2.0 is reality TV ready, because I feel like they talked to her behind the scenes and said, listen.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
You're going to need to step up your game, okay?
Yep.
And we're going to need you to make some things happen. And I feel like she's just let loose on this season. I wanted to know what your thoughts were about this moment right here, because this was something that I had not thought of. Meredith goes, and Whitney and Meredith again, but Meredith goes to Whitney and she asked her, like, hey, this dinner that Jen is throwing, who's paying for it? Because she told the government that she didn't have no assets. And at first I was like, where's she going with this? She was like, she told the government she didn't have no assets. So how's she paying for this dinner? Is it with funds that are allegedly taken from from people that have been, their money has been taken from them? I never would have thought to ask that.
Me neither. And then when they got them gifts, I was right there with Meredith. No, thank you. I don't need them watching this, calling me, saying, that snowflake they get. I need you to run that back.
But what's funny, and if for those of you guys who watch What Happens Live, again, I would not have thought of this, but it is very valid. And at first I thought Meredith was being messy, but I was like, that is an actual valid concern. So Whitney thought it was weird that Meredith accepted the snowflake, but in my mind, I felt kind of like that was more like, I'm gonna just run with this right now because you're at the table. I'm not trying to embarrass old girl.
Right.
And on Watch What Happens Live, she said she gave that thing straight to her lawyer because if it was bought with funds that were, taken from the people, as is alleged, then they're gonna give it back to the government as part of the restitution. And if she's found innocent, then she will see where they are when it comes time to when that time comes. I just feel like there's some things that I'm liking about Meredith more and more.
I like Meredith, and I feel like last season people wanted her to engage more. This season she is, but she's just engaging differently than what people think. I also think back to in the beginning when they were in Vail and accusing Mary of when they first brought up the rumors, and she was saying, I want fact. I need fact, just not, hearsay. Meredith, we forget, is a trained lawyer. She went to law school. She was a lawyer. So I feel like her mind works.
You know what? I had even forgotten about that.
Yeah. So I feel like, and sometimes when I'm watching this, I have to remember everything is not black and white because I'm a very factual person. I don't like to let my emotions get involved until I know the facts, because your emotions can get involved and you find out it's either true or not true. And I really think that's how Meredith is. She's a fact person. Well, what are the facts? Now I'm going to get involved. Like, we've never seen her as explosive as when they talked about her and Seth's marriage. And now they're talking about her father in the memorial. So I think she's very much, if it ain't fact, I don't want anything to do with it. But then, do you think another part was like, well, this is TV. This is a valid concern. And since Whitney's been throwing things out that people say, is she going to throw this out to everybody? And Whitney didn't.
I was shocked that Whitney hadn't said anything.
Yeah.
And honestly, I felt like, oh, it's coming, because Whitney, honestly, at this point, she just cannot be trusted. She can, like, and it is what it is at this point. She's either playing the reality TV game or she just can't be trusted. One or the other.
Right.
But I always feel like when I'm watching shows like this, it is clear to me that I always think in reality TV that there's going to be the instigators.
Yes.
And then there's going to be the people that are left to react, right?
Right.
Who didn't get the notes. Like, that's really what it is.
You're right.
There are people who got the notes, know what the scene is about, know exactly what is supposed to happen, who is going to be the target. And then there are the people who did not get the notes.
Right.
I would wager anything in my life, Meredith does not get the notes. Mary does not get the notes.
You're right.
Bottom line. These are the two people that have been left to sort of react to everything. If you watch most of the season, it is them sort of reacting to whatever the women are throwing at them.
And I almost lost my mind watching them perpetuate this. Do you think Meredith and Mary called the FBI?
Okay.
And then you had Heather Gay say her father worked for the FBI. So it's not possible. Here's another little thing. And I'm going to say allegedly, because Meredith said it on a podcast, but we're going to say allegedly. So allegedly, another cast member offered to go half with Meredith on the private investigator so they could see where the messages were coming from. And that cast member that I'm speaking of has the most allegiance to Jen. And they were arrested in her business's parking lot. Meredith said that. She offered to go halvesies. So Meredith was waiting. And then she never came through. So Meredith just did it. So now they're trying to spin it, because also in next week's preview, Whitney, like, Meredith is like, how dare you suggest that about my father? And Whitney says, well, I could have hired a private investigator or something. They're acting shocked, but they all knew Meredith was going to do this because they all wanted to know where the messages were coming from. And if you go back earlier in the season, Lisa Barlow sat in a confessional and said, we all thought the messages were coming from Jen because of the way she spelled because. Remember that?
I do.
So
it was so funny to me. They were all getting these messages, but
yes,
how quickly they have now just glossed over the fact that they were getting them. And that is the reason why Meredith hired the private investigator to begin with.
To see who was sending those messages to her family, and they all knew it. And again, like I said, it is so clear Mary was the target. And because Meredith has supported Mary, she's now become a target. It's very, very, very transparent to me. If you take Jen's stuff out, which they pretty much have, all we're doing is talk about Mary. My issue is this: Mary is not off limits. Every reality show person is, but talk about the things she said on camera. Talk about her responses to y'all.
There's enough material for that.
Yes, Mary, you're a mean church lady, anything. But why are we basing a whole season on rumors? And it's going to be interesting to me to jump to another franchise real quick, to see the same people who are loving that this season is based off of Mary and rumors will be irate when Teresa's the subject of questions because there's rumors about her. Like, the audience has very different energy for different people. Because I've already seen people saying, leave Teresa alone. She's been through enough. Why are you bringing up rumors?
I might be the only other person with you in this space that feels that way, because I feel like she just told Danielle to tag Margaret and yank the woman's weave out her head. She's not so. I mean, Teresa's not. Listen,
she's not above reproach.
Not even that entertaining. Okay, to be very honest with you, like, let me just take it there real quick. She's not that entertaining.
I'm with you.
I don't mind her being on the show, and I think she does add value to it. But I want her to recognize her limitations and what she is not, because it really shone through when she was on Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip that she could not compete personality-wise with the rest of the ladies, including Cynthia Bailey.
Okay? Yes. She was, because people keep saying, oh, this, I don't know this side of Teresa. Well, she has an ensemble that basically lifts her up in the other franchise. So I'm watching two things happen. And that's my whole thing is, people feel like we want to catch somebody in a racist moment, like Jenny, when it's like, no, we actually don't want to catch anybody.
I would prefer you not to be racist at all.
We prefer just don't be it. But I'm watching the energy that people have for Mary versus the energy that people have for other housewives that don't look like Mary. I literally saw an entire thread upset about rumors, upset that people are going to bring up rumors about Teresa's fiance. And some of these same people are ecstatic about these rumors that are happening about Mary's family. And I'm like, so what are we doing here?
Yeah. And the funny thing about it was, you would have thought that, but this is par for the course though. Teresa last season did this to Jackie.
Thank you.
Okay. And so now it's happening to her. And so the following thing will happen most likely. And but I feel like Whitney has been pushing and pushing and pushing. Girl, when you do that, this is reality TV. It's always going to come back to you.
Yep. Because you are going to be the new target. I feel like the producers, if you're listening, will hype you up to do your job, and you do your job and you think they got my back. Bloop. Everybody else is going to be hyped up to do their job, and it's going to surround you next year. When I saw, did you see the pictures? I know you did, of Heather and Jen filming at Mary's church. So my first initial thought was, so after that, because I think Heather said something like they wanted to go to the place of the rumors or something. Are they going to the courts in New York, and then are they going to swing by a penitentiary so she can learn that she got to take her shoes off, how to put money on books because inmate 5674 allegedly? I'm just saying. So I mean, you're swinging, and if Mary's not on the show, why are you doing this?
That was my thing too. I saw the photos coming out. I didn't cover it because in my mind she's not on the show no more.
Right.
So in terms of story, I don't understand where it's supposed to be going unless she's going to come back.
Yes. How did you feel? Because we are both Black in America, and I'm sure people watching, people of color, as much as I wanted Bravo to do the right thing with Jenny, in the back of my mind, I had already prepared for them not to do the right thing, right? Because we don't always get justice to us. So I had already kind of prepared my mind. They're probably not going to fire her. They're waiting for the fire to die down. Then to hear that she was filming. And a lot of people have said they feel like Jenny should have been brought into accountability on camera. And I've heard people say the same thing about Stassi and Kristen from Vanderpump Rules. Let their cast gather them on camera. My question is, how are the cast who have no one representing the people they offended going to gather them? I don't want to see a bunch of white women trying to school a woman and her racism. It wasn't even directed towards you. So I feel like y'all would have had Jenny come and have Meredith and Lisa and all of them address her, and Mary not be there or no Black woman be there. It just doesn't sit well with me when I hear people say they need to be held accountable. They do, but not on TV. Because if it was a real job, you would lose your job. And this is a job.
And I think a lot of times what people don't recognize is that we are watching these shows for entertainment. And I've said it before, I want to be entertained, not offended. And it's very easy to not offend people these days. Just, I mean, and to be honest with you, and I don't know if this is something that the network needs to do or not. I don't even know if they should show those moments on TV that could be deemed as offensive anymore. I don't know. A part of me feels like, oh, well, let us see it so we know who they are, right? But then a part of me is like, no, I don't want to see it. I don't want that on my screen no more.
Yeah.
But as far as Jenny, because it wasn't on TV, and I wondered to myself, and I saw somebody, I think it was Steve from Faces by Bravo, had posted that there may have been this idea to confront her and then show it at the reunion as a way to exit that storyline and clear that out.
Okay.
And if that was the case, okay, that would give me some context for, storyline wise.
Yeah.
But I don't even know that I need that storyline wise. All I needed to hear was Bravo's statement. She's fired. And that's how you deal with it.
That's how you deal with it, because it is a job at the end of the day. Yep. I don't need them confronting her. And again, when the reputation is not in the room. I just saw Child of Persia. It's so true. Trauma is not entertainment. Mm-hmm. And I hear a lot of people that don't look like us say they need to be brought back to be held accountable. And you said this on one of your lives, not at the expense of re-traumatizing. I don't need to see it. Everybody deserves grace. I don't need to see it. Period. I just don't need to see it.
Bottom line. Taria, we could go on and on.
I know.
I think we hit most of the highlights of this episode. I have got to have you back on, based on the comments that I'm seeing. I've got to have you back on to talk whatever else we want to talk about. Okay.
Well, can I just tell you, I love the Skye Squad. I'm a part of the Skye Squad, and I'll be in them comments responding to people like I know. I'm like, girl, yes, say that. So you cultivate such an environment as to where even if people don't agree, to me, I've not seen it get toxic in any of your comments, because I've learned a lot or gotten different perspectives just from watching you and then reading the comments. So thank you for the environment that you create for us to have these very real conversations.
Thank you. I mean, that's the goal for me. I feel like if it gets to a place where it feels toxic, then I won't do it. Right. And that's just how I choose to live, and that's the energy that I want to bring. And that's the energy that I want to cultivate with the people that I love. I love this group of people.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Amazing.
And I love having conversations with them. And conversations can be, you don't have to agree. You can respectfully disagree. And we can hopefully all leave feeling like, oh, yeah, I'm glad I got that off my chest about what I just watched last night.
Yes.
It's a safe space for that. And then we go on about our day and we keep it moving. So tell the people where they can find you, everything you got going on.
Well, again, thank you guys. And thank you, Skye Squad, for allowing another member of the Skye Squad to be on the live and for receiving me. You guys can find me. I have a podcast, What Else Is Going On, with Taria S. Faison, across all podcast forms. I have, I'm on Instagram at WeGo, WEIGO podcast, acronym for What Else Is Going On. I'm on Twitter. Sometimes I put out my thoughts probably before I should, but I mean, funny, on Twitter at WeGo Podcast, WEIGO Podcast. If you want to support, you can buy me a coffee, buymeacoffee.com/WeGo Podcast. And I have a Patreon, WeGo Podcast. See, I got my coffee right here because it takes a lot to keep up with these shows.
That it does. And I will place your Instagram handle down in the comment or in the description so that everybody can go and visit after we get off the video.
Thank you. And guys, can y'all flood DJ Richie's Instagram to tell him he's got to come back on What Else Is Going On very, very soon? Thank you.
Whenever you need.
Thank you.
Whenever you need. All right, y'all. Okay, so listen, we got to jump off here real quick, y'all. I'm going to put the link for her information down in the description down below. If you guys can, please come back at 1 p.m. We're going to be interviewing Tiffany from Ladies Who List. She's the closing attorney. We're going to get all up in her business, and she's going to spill it all about season 1 of Ladies Who List Atlanta. So definitely tune in for that. Taria, hang on for 1 second after I close this out. Skye Squad, y'all know I love y'all, and I will catch you in about 40 minutes. All right.